Hey, what's up, Charles? How's Kenobi treating you? Hey, man. In and out's the official meal of the Big Lebowski. Take it up with the dude if you don't like it. What I would say is the cool thing about In and Out is the quality is. I've never had seen them dip. Like I've gotten a burger at almost at midnight. I've gotten it at 9 a.m. I've gotten it at 2 a.m. Doesn't matter what location. It's always consistent for almost 30 plus years now. So for a franchise, that's pretty impressive. Let's start in a second. I'm just grabbing some stuff. Yeah. Mhm. Someone was saying on the street, and they're like, "Hey, one of the fucking meals, and you still hungry, man? Like, you need to go on a diet." I hate to be that guy, but seriously, man, it's 1,000 calories, with carbs. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, well, Pasadena's old fucking LA, so you got that cooler sort of 30s tiny, Toontown kind of like architecture and shit, right? So, hey, what's up, Alvin? Oh, nice. Super awesome. What's up, Psycho? Yeah, man, schmoozing. What do we call it? Networking, right? But it feels like it's so 90s. Nothing wrong with that. Just say. Sure. Oh, Lightbox is dope. You got Shredder's Revenge yet? Nope. Nope. That project I've been waiting for came through, so I'm starting that Monday. So I will get to it later. And just kind of prepping for all that. Thinking the first would be American Ninja. I'm gonna do some storyboards. The American Ninja storyboards. Hmm. I don't know, man. Like I don't know about like how storyboarding works in terms of like submitting. Do you take something that was old and look at the script? And do you redraw? Like I know in comics, a good thing to always do is you can take the last 4 pages of a comic and like redraw. You know, is that kind of what you're saying? Like kind of rethink. I would always say make sure you're picking the kind of genre and shit that you're trying to. Be sure you're making the kind of work you want to get paid to do, right? Like if you're looking to get on the new Star Trek cartoon and you're showing them boards from American Ninja, I don't know if that's quite the same thing, right? Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you were, like I said, I'm more of like in the design realm, so like it would always be like I have to come up with new designs for that sort of thing that were either actor driven or new design driven. When if you couldn't use the actors, right? But yeah, I mean, if you were gonna just like say, here's some cool fight scenes, and there's different ways to do these ones from movies, then like I guess that would work. I always say, man, it's like this: do what you got to fucking get you to do, man. Like if that is an idea that is like you're like, man, I've got a million ideas for this, go with that. Because what you really want them to see is like your passion and your ability to execute. And if you're like struggling to make something work to be clever, don't do that. That's what I would say. You know, like I'm always find myself in the best place when I'm like super fucking like inspired. Oh man, I could do like this, like this, like this. Even if I'm the only motherfucker who gets it, like that's fine, you know. But people will see your energy on the page, you know, without rotating the canvas. Yeah, I mean sometimes like I'll rotate it. Who cares? Like when I draw with paper I rotate the paper. I wouldn't worry about rotating, man. You know, why not? Yeah, I wanted to do the same thing. Then man, do it. That's what I say, man. Do the shit that like only you could have conjured it up. Because really what you're talking about, man, is you're asking people to go, why should I hire you and not Ethan Becker? Well, because I'm the only motherfucker who would have come up with this shit. Yeah, they could have executed, something if Canada the idea, but I can't. I conjured this up on my own. You know, like that's the way I always look at it. Yeah, it's for rotating, man. Like I was always saying, Dennis, like when I was younger, I was at I don't know, some Easter thing, and I was drawing a character, and I moved the page, and this older cat came up. It wasn't my family; it was my stepmother's like family. Never seen this guy before, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Real artist doesn't have to rotate the page." And I'm like, "Oh shit." I spent all day trying to draw this fucking angle, and I finally just rotated the fucking page. I'm like, "Well, I'm not a real artist, like, and then I come to find out animators have desks that rotate, right? Like I go to Disneyland and I finally see like they set that animator's desk up at Disneyland, and like there the fucking thing rotates. I'm like, well, I mean, who cares? Like, like winning an award for being the most, yeah, real artist. I know. I'm like, just those fake imaginary artists over here, man. You know what I mean? You ever tell a roofer, real roofer wouldn't have to use a ladder. Just scale that shit parkour style. Did a workshop thing with asking for movie ideas. Yeah. I guess when I'm not thinking about it, I just draw. It just depends. Police report. Now I feel like I have to rotate the fucking. What are you doing to me? Anyway, um, it really surprised me because you see his videos are basically chilling. Well, American Ninja, man, not as well known as you think. People, I mean, Michael Dudikoff, right? So like, I mean, there's Ninja 3. Remember Ninja 3 with the chick in the cave? She gets possessed by a ninja. You know, when I was in the army, um, when I was in the army, I was watching Sky Network, and they were showing Osama bin Laden having these like training camps in Afghanistan, and all these dudes were dressed up like in like Arab warrior like dressing, but they were all different. They were all like some were red, some were blue. They were in groups, and I'm like, this looks like the American Ninja training camp. You know, like we're gonna fight ninjas? Like what? This is crazy. You could probably find that footage somewhere, man. It's hilarious. Yeah, I know Ethan Becker, man. He's got interesting kayfabe. Interesting. Yeah, he's fun, man. He's fun. He'd be the first to tell people, man, just fucking use reference. Especially when you got like crazy deadlines and shit. my way around it for my comics. If I was doing storyboards, I would just or animating, dude. You know, key you gotta do like a ton of reference. There's just no way. Not under our deadlines. My personal way around it is I just in my free time I do gesturals. You know, so like I'm always thinking about how like I'm always like studying how things move, but I try to like try not to do like crazy like action stuff. I really a lot of my gesturals around like people sitting at tables or walking. A lot of natural movements and stuff. Cause I just think like this kind of shit should be pretty fucking easy. Like the real reference is like run cycles and shit. Like I fucking hate thinking that stuff through. I really do. Get dyslexic about which foot's supposed to go in front of the other. Anything's Carlos. Yeah, the Turtles game is dope. Super dope. I'd love to be playing it right now, but I gotta get. I got a lot of drawing starting tomorrow, and I gotta get back into. Like I've been saving inking this piece because I knew that when it came to this project I'm about to do, that I was gonna need a warm up. So yeah, I'm listening to Jazzy Jeff right now. He was talking about Inglewood the other day. Did you go to the In and Out in Inglewood? I've been to that one. Right off the highway. Oh, nice. Yeah, the artists tend to live if they can in Pasadena or Burbank. You could take something that has like action beats but aren't typically fucking action too. Like if you think about the skateboarding scenes like in Pump Up the Volume, right? Like pretty tame by today's standards, but anything from that era kind of had like a lower budget, so like American Ninja with blood. Oh yeah, the Figueroa. Yeah. Don't look at anyone straight in the eyes. They love to stare at you coming out of Staples Center. Like Android Arts does on Twitter. I don't know who Android Arts is. Oh yeah, I'm never animating, bro. Like I'll quit art before I ever do that. I hate it. Oh yeah. I followed him since like 1999. Yeah, good dude. Yeah, I don't care. Like, um, I have no passion for it. So yeah, fucking brilliant artist though. He was one of the first guys on the internet that would actually show like his process and shit. Yeah, super dude, super good guy. Yeah, man, after I put out that sketch for the Spider-Man, that eventually became Miles Morales, and like almost the exact design with green coat, ended up, I was like, yeah, like I'll do my designs, but I'm not doing a whole like here's how you could revive a whole product. I don't get any interest in it, so it doesn't, you know. So. I have a pretty big project I'm starting. Like I said, tomorrow. That's going to consume most of my time. So after that, I'll just design my own stuff for like a viewership of like 100 people until the next big project comes along. But I don't get any kick out of like being like, here's how I'd redesign all the levels in Mega Man. Like it doesn't. Yeah, yeah, man. I put this design up at a time. I just called it Peter Parker, because I was actually pitching it to my buddy Kevin Grievous, who was working at he was writing for Marvel at the time, and so I was like, you could pitch this, and I made him Venom and shit, but I did the black and red costume and the green army coat, and I was like, he could be like, this is a year before there was ever a Miles Morales, bro, and so I was like, the trick is like he should be like of really low income, but he gets in on like those really, super schools based on you know, his grades and shit. But I'm like, you got to do, man. You got to make him like an art. I literally said make him an artist and have him like put up tags around the city, like using those postage stuff from like those stamps at the post office and shit. I'm like, because that's my buddy. I met this guy in the colleges from New York, and that's what he did. And I'm like, Peter would be doing that. If he's a high school kid, he would sketch. I mean, he makes a costume, so he's got to be artistic, right? Like, and Kevin just said, he didn't think they'd ever go for it. But I put it up, like it's time stamped. You can see, like it's funny. Every year I always get someone who goes, "Hey man, Peter, you shouldn't make Peter black. It's Miles. Looks like Miles." And I'm like, "Yeah, look at the timestamp, fuckwad." You know. Yeah, well, that's the way it works, my friend. That's the way it works. Oh well. So, like I said, I already know I can do it. If I get a gig, I can always put my stamp on it. But in terms of doing that on my own, unless, I mean, he does it because he's super into that shit. I have no interest in it. You know. I save that kind of stuff for like when I do commissions. I tend to put my own stamp on the characters. So I get enough of that out of my system. But in terms of like, here's how you can do everything, a whole world, like, no, I'm not doing that. Thanks. Yeah, this is from, I think it's from Gret Brushes, this one. Can't remember, man. Took me a long time to find like the kind of brushes that like give me the things that I'm looking for. Like I spent all last year really refining it. So there's a whole period where it's just like people are like, "When you make stuff?" Because I'm in like dev mode. When I hit dev mode, it's like I don't like. It's not a lot of posting, but it's a lot of dev. And now I'm putting all the dev mode into practice. So things they don't teach you in art school. Yeah. Problem is, I just don't want to be that guy that's telling everyone, here's how all this shit can go wrong for your career. Like, I just don't want to be that dude. So it's like I've talked about it, it's out there, but in terms of being like here's a guy, you know, here's how you can like watch for all this. I wouldn't even. I mean, the last time I was in, I graduated in 2006, so it's like I don't know, like I couldn't tell you what bullshit they're teaching now. I imagine there's still a lot of bullshit. I'm a betting man, you know. It's always some flavor of the month nonsense, and like the biggest thing that I had a problem with is I went to a school that wasn't artistically driven. You know, it was based on like trends. And, you know, like if you're gonna incur a shitload of fucking art debt, you know, financial debt, which I totally don't recommend doing, but if you are, at least go to a place that is focused on making your artistic skills better. Because I don't give a shit what algorithms come out, dude. Like what AI's Dolly, whatever happens, man. Like, um, art is still, art made by humans will still look better and be more creative. Art made by robots is like it's just gonna be a bunch of fucking the same shit over and over again. So you're like, oh, this looks great, but like the first time you see it, and then you know, good luck with that. The one that gets me is, you know, watching all these places sell art as a side hustle. It's like, good fucking luck, man. You know, that's how a lot of bullshit gets made. You know, the cool part about a lot of bullshit and getting made is the people that actually put in the fucking effort stand out. So it's like, all right, make some bullshit. But like, that's like saying, hey, be in a band for a side hustle. Like, yeah, people can tell the difference between someone who can play some chords and someone who's actually put in 20 fucking years of worth of effort. And if you think they can't, like, you're just deluding yourself, you know? It'd be like saying, like, oh, if I just had those brushes, I'd be able to do what you're doing. Like, yeah, sure. You know, you'd be able to, if you think so. You know, I mean, I want someone, you don't want a brain surgeon doing that shit on, you know, learning brain surgery on Udemy, you know? So it's like, at some point, you know, like dentistry is a side hustle. Like, okay. I just found that most people quit, you know, most people quit, even the ones that intend to. Like 5 years later, they're doing something else, you know. Weird part is my career didn't take off till I left California. But I'm the first to admit my career is fucking weird, man. Like it is not that it is not the you can't make heads or tails out of it. Like you just can't. Like I think about it now, like I'm working on stuff where I'm like, I don't even know how you get here. Like so part of it is luck, you know, for certain. You also have to know exactly what you're trying to make, and you have to be able to see the difference between what you're doing and what is an industry accepted standard. And you have to, if you want to be recognized, if you just want to be like your own artist, then do whatever the fuck you want. If you want to be recognized, you have to be able to produce at an industry acceptable standard. Forget styles. I'm just saying like level of quality and convincing people to like buy into you. If you're like, well, I'm new, or if you got like some gimmick or something, it's like you have to convince people. You have to wow people who don't know who the fuck you are. Who have no interest in the type of thing you're doing. When you can interest people in the type of like drawing turtles is like an easy win because you're like fucking most people love the turtles, man. The trick is to get someone who's like, I haven't liked that shit forever, you know. I don't even give a shit about it, you know, or to and then they're interested in the version you're doing, or find some, work on something, show you can take something that no one even remembers. Like American Ninja is a good example, right? Like if you can make that shit so like they're like, I don't even like this shit, but I would fucking watch that, then that's the best place to be in, as far as I'm concerned. Because then you've done something that only you can do. I've never been able to sit there and like convince people to like buy my work, like it's like if you ever walk in a convention center and someone's like yelling at you from Artist Alley, hey, you like art? Like, no, man, that's why I paid to go to a Comic Con because I fucking hate art, you know, like those fucking people. It's like I get what you're trying to do, but like, the I find that it's also a problem on YouTube, man. Like artists feel they really have to like, I don't know, man. They have to be like a YouTube artist, and I don't even know what that fucking means because the algorithm changes every couple years anyway. So I don't know, man. You know, I always side on like, like if you want to be a person, be a personality, be a personality. But if you want to be like a person who makes shit, one's gonna take you more time than the other. Figure out where your priorities to lie. Some people can pull off both, I admit, but most people can't. You know, karate good, karate bad, karate so, hit from both sides, right? I'd say an early mistake I made in my career was I listened to art directors. Um, Not at work, but in terms of like how like the kind of art I was producing. I listened to people who were paying me, like, here's how you should improve. And I took their advice. I was always looking for someone to like, I've never really had like a mentor. So I thought maybe in college I might. That didn't happen. And then I thought, these cats are getting paid, I should they worked their way up, they know. And that was a big mistake because no one really aside from how do I say this? No one's really been able to like direct me where to go, you know, or what to do. Like I tend to know what's good for me, what's the right thing for me to do. Um, and sometimes that the right thing for me to do is nothing. So like that's a hard that's something that Udemy and fucking Nomon and all these other ones that show up, Colaro, whatever. They're not going to tell you, hey man, sometimes just stop producing. How long? I don't know, month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever the fuck. Like sometimes if you're lost, go do other shit. And sometimes I do that. I just do other shit for a while. You know, tend to be more informed of the path you should. Yeah, well, but it was like I'd go there and they'd see what I was doing, and even whether it was college or at work, when I was in an art department, most people just didn't get it. And then the frustrating part is when you're working for like a comic book publisher and you're drawing a comic and they're like they don't get what you're doing. That's frustrating. Super frustrating. Even then, man, like you're up in LA, you'd be better served with some of these more like concept artist kind of like conventions. Like there's like that what's that one? Like it's not WonderCon. Is it WonderCon? No, it's not WonderCon. It's like an indie thing, man, like out there. So people go to look, the conventions, comic conventions are marketed to fans of like movies or like hardcore collectors. So like they show up, they want a souvenir, they're gonna fucking look for autographs or they're looking for like one of some character they already fucking know. Which is why you have all these artist alley booths that have to have one of every fucking thing. So you're not really like showing off what you can do as an artist. You're basically at a swap meet. And that really happened like full force, around 2010, between 2010 2013. And I primarily got out of it. Like I only went back for a couple years when Brandon would be able to get us a really good deal, and I would stay at his place. Like by deal, I mean like almost free for the booth. But even then, like I was like, what's the point of me sitting here all fucking weekend drawing commissions? I could have just drawn commissions from home. Like hauling all this shit, taking time off, eating fucking bullshit. Like convention, anything around a convention center is not great for you. And you know, like I didn't get the point. I didn't get it. I didn't understand why, you know. Like I used to go so that editors would see my stuff and then I'd get, after about a couple weeks I'd get a fucking email or a phone call. But that all stopped. around 2013 ish. Um, People who hired generally don't go around. So I didn't get one job offer from a convention after 2012. Like, not one ever for anything. And like, there's just no point, you know? They're like, well, if you go to all these cons and da, 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 da. And I'm like, man, you must love being on like airplanes and I fucking before COVID, I'm not going on airplanes. I'm not doing this. 20 different cons to hustle books. No, I'm not doing that. You know, like I'm gonna sit right here and just make the kind of art I like to make and go fishing and see who notices what I'm doing. I just believe in myself that I will eventually get noticed. And you know something, man? It may not have occurred as fast as I would like it to, but it has happened. Like the one I'm about to do now, man, I was just like, it. I don't know if the average person would give two shits, but for me, I never would have thought it would be possible. So it's like, and that was just from a piece of art that I put on fucking Instagram, man. It doesn't take 100,000 fucking followers. It takes one piece of your art to end up in the feed of someone who can pay you. That's all it takes. But um, that's all it takes. That's how I got on Crash and Spyro, and that's how I got this current gig. That's just how it works, man. That's how I got the Game Informer cover. That's it. You know, the, for spending money for the privilege. Yeah, pretty much. Happy for you. Would be possible. Would be possible that I'd get to draw a comic that I'm about to draw. Like I can't announce it yet until they announce it, but I'm gonna draw a comic book, three or three issues at least, and then never thought it'd be possible. You know, I didn't apply for it; just arrived. But I would say it was the thing I always wanted to do when I was in teen. I mean, it's the thing. Like for me, it's like I never would have thought. Just fucking no way. I don't see how. Can you tell us what publisher? Yeah, Todd McFarlane. Yes, sir. That I can say. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, right? Right. Yes, sir. Look, I go wake up. I'm like, is this shit really happening? Like, it's happening. You know, all I can do is fuck it up, basically. That's always possible, but not probable. But like Big Trouble in Little China, I got a real positive feeling about this. When they're in the elevator, it's my favorite scene. It's got a real positive feeling about this. I love it. I love it. Yeah, they're in the elevator. I don't know, man. I just I feel kind of Jack says I feel kind of invincible, and then his buddy, uh, Forget his name, man. I fucking love that actor. He goes, yeah, man, I got a real positive feeling. And then the guys behind him give him that little like cool hand gesture, like, yeah, all right, like, so goofy. I love it. The index finger. Yeah, the index finger, man. It's my favorite. I do it to this day, man. That's my that's my favorite film of the '80s, probably. You know, I used to, Ghost. I always felt Ghostbusters and Big Trouble in Little China exist in the same universe. If I had to watch Ghostbusters or Big Trouble in Little China, I'll watch Ghostbusters. I mean, Big Trouble in Little China any day of the week. Like I love Ghostbusters. It's probably number two for me. But Big Trouble in Little China is my jam, man. Yeah, yeah. You were not brought upon this earth to get it, Mr. Burton. Oh, I'll get it. You were not brought upon this earth to get it. I love it. Whenever I'd go to the airport, which I haven't been since COVID, but whenever I'd go to the airport, I'd always have the Pork Chop Express theme on repeat in my headset. I just listen to it. It's my airport music. Give it a shot sometime if you ever to go to the airport. Check is in the mail. He's inside right now, stirring the pot. The hell of what? China. Chinese have a lot of health. I'll roast you in the hell of being burnt alive. I do that again. Trying to remember how I did this. It's been a couple months since I've messed with my brushes. Sad to say. That isn't it. I believe it exists in the same universe. I believe Ghostbusters takes place on the East Coast and Big Trouble in Little China occurs on the West Coast. The first time I ever sat down to write a script was Ghostbusters 2 uh, showdown in like little Ghostbusters 2 versus Chinatown or something. It has something with Chinatown, but it was like Jack Burton showing up to New York, right? Like he's on his way to New York and he brings that fucking shit around the more crazy low pan and goes their hijinks. Look, I was in the fucking third grade, so it wasn't really a great fucking idea, but Grem- Gremlins and Goonies certainly do, right? Yeah, Kyle's brushes are great, Alice. Yeah, I like Phoebe Cates and the Gremlins. This is the thing, man. Like between doing the doing my own colors, digital painting, graphic design. Like what I haven't been showing is I've been laying out an art book for myself. Unfortunately, with the comic work, I have to put it on pause. But like I've been spending the last couple weeks just doing that, and it's just like all these different hats, like drawing, and then I write my own stuff, and then like the graphic design, like all of it. Just I forget. How did I do this? How did I? Oh yeah. All right. Sure. Later. Funny thing about that Spider-Man bit was I told I've talked about this publicly before, but I was like I told Kevin, I'm like, look, this idea, its time has come. You know, like first time I thought of Spider-Man as being a man of color was when I saw Richard Pryor as the first time I ever saw Spider-Man was Richard Pryor in the movie The Toy. But I'm like, this is gonna happen. Like Mark Bernardin was talking because Donald Glover did that thing right where he was in the Spider-Man outfit, the one from Toy, right? And I was like, this is gonna happen now. So like, better this voice comes from someone who's a person of color who's experienced this. He was a science. Kevin Gervais is a scientist, man. College educated, and I'm like, otherwise they're gonna get someone like, and I literally said someone like Bendis to write it, and I just don't know if that's the best idea. And motherfucking, they got Bendis. Like it's just so predictable. These things. It's so predictable. Like I, so I'm glad they made an original character versus a derivative. I mean, but still, Miles is still a derivative. It's still an analog or derivative, whatever. But I'm glad they made an original character. I am. However, like the idea of presenting that to Marvel was difficult enough for folks working there. So like presenting a brand new character was almost like, I mean, that was not even like uh, an option at that time. You know, for someone maybe not in the inner circle of Marvel editorial. Oh, thanks. Yeah, these the diamond interlocking shell thing. Conjured that one up back in like 2003 or four. Oh, the Yonan Vasquez style. Yeah, I always try to put a little Yonan Vasquez in the work. You set your pressure low. My pressure, it's weird. So I use a firmer, like on the Cintiq, it's the one before the most firm whenever I'm doing inking. And then uh, I'll jump between turning lazy Nezumi on and off. Some days I like it, some days I don't. So, but what I will do is even if I use like zero, like I'll use zeros. I don't use any smoothing at all. But when I'm inking, I will use the double pressure thing. What's it called? Like pressure. I rename them, so I can't fucking remember what it's called. Smoothing, like pressure gain or whatever. So it just automatically doubles the pressure. Sometimes though you don't need it. Like if you're sketching, like pencil brushes really don't. You don't need any of that shit. Like turn it all off. Like when I'm, especially when I'm painting, I turn all. I don't do any smoothing. I don't do any pressure. I turn it all off because you need a lot of subtle fluctuations. But when I'm inking and I need like controlled lines, it does keep me from having to press. I refuse to ever press down. I started doing digital art in 2008, like a Cintiq, right? I bought a Cintiq in 2008 because I was getting massive carpal tunnel from pressing too hard with my traditional art. I wasn't inking, I was just doing pencils on books and stuff, and like it was really fucking with my hand. And so, um, I have found a lot of these like inkers tend to do better when there's a little bit of that pressure gain. But again, when I'm digitally painting or sketching, all of it comes off. There's just no point. And some days when I'm inking, I turn it off. I don't need it. Like there is some weird fucking thing I think in your brain that like I don't know. Like some days I'm like I don't need it. Then I'm like, do I ever need this? And then some days I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. It's not feeling right. I don't know why that is. I don't get that way with traditional tools. Like they tend to feel one way specifically all the time. But so I don't know why that is. Have you heard of Wacom Art Pen? Yeah, I use a Cintiq and I use the classic thin pen, but I don't want a rotated barrel while I'm drawing. I ink generally with like Micron. I'm sorry, with Copic like multiliners. So like I can do brushing. I can do ink brush. I can ink with a brush like a Sable 7 and shit. Not my default favorite thing to do though. So the pressure is being doubled really. But I keep the Cintiq setting on super firm when I ink. I turn it down to middle firm or like right around the middle area when I'm painting, digitally painting. I discovered the gray nibs. Yeah, this is the gray nib. I don't use the ones that go in, the spring loaded ones. I don't use those because this is more like using a micron for me. What I really just want is a consistent feel no matter what I'm doing. That's sort of what we're talking about here, you know? So if I ink with multi-liner pens, it feels like this. Even though the result is different, obviously, I'm using the same arm motions. Like my control comes from using my elbow when I draw. I use my whole arm. Like, I mean, I train myself to do that. So like I don't, I can just go like here and you know what I mean? I can just go boom and, you know, and if you see any of my traditional inking videos, you know that to be true. Sometimes across a whole page. A whole page. The problem with my traditional inking is it still has a real like ratty kind of feel to it, you know? Like sketchy, ratty feel to it. And I find that it just I'm not good enough to color it. So I go with the digital inks for final work because yeah, I can color it. I can never for some reason I can't color my own micron stuff like digitally, like digitally. Yeah. Having used the iPad, I really like this song. Problem is, man, it just I can't. The screen's too small. Screen's too small, man. And the Apple Pencil, I fucking hate it's too thin. I've got you know some real expensive like German made barrels to put it in, you know, to like make it a little thicker. But then I still come across the fact that the screen is small. I need a bigger screen, man. I just don't like it. And I've tried everything. I've got those sketchbook, like, you know, put the iPad in the sketchbook, you know, or like the tables you can put it in so it sinks in. And it's still a tiny little screen, man. I can't deal with it. Yeah. So the only time I really use it is like um sometimes I can do blobbies on there. So sometimes if I feel like blobbing stuff out, I'll do it. Um and then Procreate has that like that animation tool, and I had to do an animatic once for Berserk Boy, and I found that that was a that, I wish Procreate was available on PC because like that animation tool I would do with some more animating if I could just do it in Procreate because I did enjoy it. I was like, oh, this I'm actually having fun. Problem is, I fucking hate using my iPad, so just oh well, you know. What was the caveat? Clip. I can't use clip, man. I own it. I've tried it. It just aggravates me. So my shortcut commands in Photoshop are just too. There's a lot of things it doesn't do, and so probably wouldn't matter much to most people, but for me, I'm like, no. Well, yeah, I tell people use look, man, if fucking drawing with the fucking Sharpie is your thing, do it. I could care 2 cents less what people use. I'm just glad that there's options. Like I mean, I loved using Painter back in the day, um, but I'd go into work in art studios and it was like, yeah, we're not using Painter. Like we use Photoshop. So like, you use Photoshop or you find a new fucking job. And I was like, all right. So like, just by like necessity of like, I'm not switching my fucking shit around anywhere I go. Can't do this in Clip Studio Paint. Watch, I'll show you. I can just jump to whatever layer I'm working on. It's a shortcut key. It's Control Alt and then like left click. It's just one of the things, man. Like I'm not going back. Layer selections and all this stuff, man. Yeah, I've tried it, man. It don't work the same. You have to reset up everything. I'm just not doing it. Not doing it, man. Every time I use it, there's something else I do, man, where I'm like, can you do this? And then I go look it up and they're like, no, we're working on it. I'm like, great. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I get like the zipatones and shit. That I get. I get if you're making manga, it's super fast for that. I understand. Like you got those pages, you basically got a little version of InDesign in there. Problem is I have InDesign and everything I do, I just do through that. So like, but I'm not making manga, so yeah, yeah. But it's not the way like I told you. It's just it brings up like a menu. Oh, I can't do it, man. It's the greatest program ever, Dennis. Whatever. you know, I can't use it because I'm like stupid. I'm not a real artist. Is the thing. I learned that in high school. you know, and my brushes don't work. And I know they're like, oh, your Photoshop brushes work. They don't. They don't work. They load up. They don't work the same. So, whatever. Look, some of the ruler tools are interesting, but it was like because what's his face, right? Lost Bear from like Creature Box, right? The other guy from Creature Box. He was showing like how he uses all the perspective ruler tools to get all the perfect ellipses and shit. And I'm like, man, that's great. That's awesome. Maybe that. Here's the problem. I just don't like perfect ellipses. So like, I'm like, yeah, whatever. If I need a perfect ellipse, I'll just make a circle and transform it. What's the difference? Probably a little slower, probably a couple minutes more than the other guy. Whatever. I've tried every year, man. I go, let me find a way. It's just I'm at a point now where I'm like tired of fucking trying different things. Like I just want to get better at what I know how to do. Now the animation function in Procreate is legitimately a game changer. Like it's super good. Like the fact that I was able to put together an animatic, having not even animated in God knows how many fucking years, and having never tried it, I got that done in like half a day. And so that to me is like, man, that's really good. You know. So props to Procreate on that one. Incubation should be one of the most satisfying. Thank you. I mean, if Kyle T. Webster hadn't made these cool brushes, would I probably have to like find a way to grunt through Clip Studio? Sure, but I don't have to. So, yeah, my buddy was like, "But look, you can make these perfect. Like, it's really easy to make borders in comics." I'm like, "Awesome." I just don't care. Like I don't study digital art, by the way. I only study like stuff that I kind of grew up with, like Bill Watterson. Like I look at the original inks and ain't none of it perfect. Like it's like when I talk to guys who are like they letter comics for a living and they're like, you everything needs to be vector. I'm like, well, not everything needs to be. I mean, how did comic strips get done before vector fucking fonts, man? You know? Well, they just drew them. I'm like, so they're rasterized. Yeah, but they're not as clean. They're not good for scaling. And I'm like, no one's relettering Bill Watterson shit. They're still buying it on iPad. So like, I don't believe you just keep saying that. I guess if you say it enough, it's true. But so they're not quite as sharp. Who cares? Like I people are reading like low res shitty scans. Like perhaps, yeah, I'm not using control shift. I hear you, Dennis, but it was a couple years ago, so like, but I'm not using Clip Studio Paint. It's just not happening. It's not happening. Does it look like I'm over here fighting Photoshop? No, I'd be fighting Clip Studio. I forget what I was saying. What was I saying? Can't remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, the billboards, right? Yeah, yeah. Those. I mean, at the end of the day, it's dots on paper, right? And if it's digital, like I get if it's on a TV screen and you want like a real clean user interface for your game. I understand that. I would also say that vector fonts on those, if you look at any Final Fantasy remaster where they shove in those dead ass vector fucking Helvetica fonts, you know what I mean? I'm like, a little bit of noise makes the shit look more real. So, like, yeah, I don't do it. I'm not doing it. Oh well. I'm like I did nothing but oversized printing when I worked at Kinko's, back in the early 2000s for 3 or 4 years, man. I ran sign and banner. Everything was 150 DPI on an oversize, you know? Like none of this makes any sense. Like and like I was talking about, like Kenobi and stuff and like even the Mando and everything. I'm like these digital series would really benefit from having some film grain. Seriously, like put some noise back in the fucking image. It's too clean. Like it looks cheap when it's too clean, in my opinion. That's like when guys are like, you got to have anti-aliasing in your game, and I'm like, I'll take 60 frames per second, but anti-aliasing is the last fucking thing I'm too worried about. Like, you know, if it's got some shimmer, oh well, you know, long as it fucking looks. I don't look the Nintendo 64. I love the 64. I think it's really underrated hardware. Um, Never should have had fucking carts, right? But that smoothing on the textures, they're not as good as the the pixelated hard edge textures of Metal Gear Solid. They don't age as well, So like I just think about that. Like when people want everything perfect, I'm like, I know why they do. Like because in marketing can't people who are unartistic work in marketing, so they think really clean art equals better. you know. And it's like that's not true, man. Why is the vinyl revolution? Why do people buy vinyl? Because they like the noise. They like the texture that comes with that sound. So like I don't believe it, you know. But if everyone just keeps saying it enough, then I guess that makes it true. Right? All right. I see how that works. You know, I Hey, what's up, man? Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, another Megavisions. Yeah, this is the cover. Remember that Dreamcast Power Song? Oh, nice. Yeah, it was fun. That was fun. I would say, like, you know, when I did that, like, that was kind of the older way that I kind of like worked. So I have no interest at this point to do like a million. Each one of those things, man, those ones with all like the controllers and plushies and stuff, man, they take 60, 80 hours. Like the Turtles one took 100 hours. Like I'm done. Kind of done with that. It's too much effort. Unless I really get the hankering, you know. Watch, I'll do one and be like, look, I did something. But it's just it's a lot of effort. I mean, those tribute I've drawn under the sea thing. All right. Like Little Mermaid. Yeah, I mean, those tribute pieces is what got Game Informer's attention, so I can't complain. You know, like I still personally prefer the ideas behind those to say just like a wall of like characters, right? So the problem is a lot of times on covers, man, like they're just like, we just want you to draw one of everything that ever existed. And you're like, all right, man, chill out with it. They never go with like creative subtlety. It's always like fucking everything. All right, like every time. So it's funny when people be like, why don't you draw this or that? I'm like, because I spent 100 hours of my life drawing that one thing. Took me a while. I like the octopuses. They're super cool. We've been doing it for 2 hours. All right. I gotta go make breakfast for the wifey. It is Sunday. So I will continue this on. We'll see if I stream, right? We'll see if I stream. But I gotta try and get all the inks done today. So I might have to turn off the stream to move a little faster. But it's getting done. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Totally appreciate it. And we will continue on when I can continue on. When I can continue on. Because I'm not going to be streaming a lot because I'm going to be making some stuff for Todd and I can't stream it. So.